If you believe that our leaders in Washington, D.C. never make mistakes and always know what's best for you and your family, then this message is not for you. The U.S. government chooses to ignore a pending disaster, even when their own advisors tell them it's coming. One of the biggest threats to America, and many scientists believe it to be the biggest threat to our way of life, is the vulnerability of our electrical grid. This grid of power lines and transformers brings the electricity we depend on for nearly everything we need to survive. What could cause the destruction of this fragile grid in an instant? An electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. Our sun puts out such pulses with every solar flare. About every 12 years, a solar flare large enough to damage or destroy the grid if aimed at the Earth occurs. NASA and the National Academy of Sciences warn of an impending solar storm between now and 2014 that could instantly collapse the national power grid. In addition, a relatively small nuclear blast set off above the United States could also produce an EMP powerful enough to knock out the grid. If you think our enemies don't know about how devastating this would be to our way of life, think again. Iran, North Korea, and others would love to send us back to the Stone Age. Washington has known of this real threat for years, and yet, with the polarized politics of today's bickering leaders, it continues to stick its head in the sand and ignore this significant threat to our very existence. Well, the Noah Foundation has decided to do something about it. Here in North Carolina, for the first time in 110 years, we have an all-Republican Congress and a Republican governor. What we're proposing is to add some fairly small and inexpensive resistors in the transformer's ground connections. The addition of that little bit of resistance could significantly reduce the amount of geomagnetically induced currents that flow into the grid. This hardening of the grid will allow us to avoid the catastrophe that a grid failure would bring. We also feel that North Carolina could lead the nation into hardening the national grid as well. The Noah Foundation is not waiting for Washington to do what it does best, react to a disaster instead of preventing it. Why not find out more about the Noah Foundation and become a member today? Your tax-deductible contribution to this important nonprofit organization can directly protect you and your loved ones from the suffering that is sure to come if the grid is compromised. Click on the link below and discover what the Noah Foundation can do for you, North Carolina, and the rest of America. Do it now.